Hey, this is Tracy with Color Me This. Welcome to my channel, and if you are returning, thank you for coming back. Today, I am working on episode 47, and I am going to focus today on the Holbein pencil tests on this sheet. So it is not going to be the full review of the Holbeins. This is just going to be one part of it, and then when I go back and do the full review of everything, I will include a quick summary of how this test went. So I will be doing both part 1 and part 2, and I've got everything here. I am actually sitting in my recliner in the living room. My back is telling me it would like some rest, so my husband is over. He's in the living room, kind of over in the corner at his desk, so you might hear some clicking over there. But this is our first time that I have tried to film while sitting at my desk that wasn't quote unquote an experiment like the first one. So hopefully I will be able to move around and get each part of this page. We're going to be focusing on all of the boxes on the left. And then after we do all of the boxes on the left, I thought it might be fun to do a couple of color combos. The first one will be the sunset, which is the color I always do in these main boxes. And then over here on the hibiscus, I might do a couple of the combos. In fact, ironically, I think I bought 21 pencils and I only have 5 color combos. So I could do all 5 petals, but we'll see how it goes. And maybe I'll break that out into a separate one depending on how long the video takes. So I will, really quick to review, I've already swatched. Here is my swatch chart as best as we can see it because I have my camera pretty close for the tests. So you can see that I did the rainbow colors, yellow to red, and then I did a few purples. We have 3 blues, 3 greens, and actually here's khaki, which is one of the unique colors, so I made myself get that one, and it will blend nicely as a 4 blend, oops, all the way off, with these 3 browns. So that is the entirety of my Holbein collection, and doing this today is a break in the midst of me doing my Crayola tests. So the Crayolas right now, I have finished all of the swatches. Again, I have 100 plus the 24 colors of the world that are all skin tones from light flesh to dark brown. And the Crayolas was your choice between Crayola Arteza and the pastel tints from Castle Arts. So this is just a little break that I am taking. I thought it would be fun for me to break out these Holbeins in the midst of coloring with right now what I think is the hardest pencil set I own. That's the Crayolas. And when I get back to the Crayolas and I do the walkthrough with you guys, I will bring out my other 2 hard pencil sets. I own 3 of them, and that's the Crayola Starjoy Gold and the Praying 50s. So on that note, I am going to grab my blue. I tend to like to do these tests with the boxes. I do have my sharpener. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but for me, here is a sharpened Holbein. The wood, something about these pencils sharpens a little bit harder. The sound is different with these. I don't think that the wood is as soft. I don't know. These are made in Japan. I have no idea what wood they proclaim that they use, but like the Castle Arts, even the Polychromos, I don't use the Prismas. I use them at Christmas time. I just don't remember the sound being as crunchy sounding per se. So when I come back to do the full test, I will be sure to do a electric sharpener test with the Holbeins versus others. I would do it right now, but I'm sitting in my chair and I have already put together all of the pieces I need to do this test, and I didn't even think about grabbing some other pencil brands to do a sharpener noise level test. So the first test is layering, And I am going to start with light layers. The curious thing is that the Crayola, being a very hard and dry pencil, they prefer light layers. I have had much more success doing my color combos with the light layering. So I'd be curious, and we will find out what I think with these pencils, the Holbeins, doing light layers versus heavy pressure layers. So this paper is the Nina Bristol Vellum. It is 67 pounds. I did finally get on sale a ream of the, okay, now I can't think of it. Is it called Summerhill? The other brand of Bristol Vellum, which has the same feeling on both sides. It doesn't have a rough side like the, I don't know if it's Summerhill or not. I know that I use Hammermill and I use Nina, so this must be Summerhill. So I probably shouldn't talk too much about it. I'm not keeping good track. I'm on my third layer. So pretty soon here I will start focusing in on continuing with light layers, but trying to get all of the tooth filled in. These do a nice light layer. I can see that it's a little streaky. I'm not as proficient at using them as I am with like the Crayola I have been using is so dry that it's really easy to keep your layers pretty consistent. I'm going to go the different direction here, and I'm going to put a tick mark for number 4. I can see I'm putting a little more pressure, and as we get more pigment down, I'm starting to hear and feel there's a bit of a drag as you get more of the pigment into the tooth. Okay, I'm up to, that's 5 already, and I see a lot of tooth left. I'm going to start focusing in, trying to keep with light. I can hear the pencils, the lead or pigment is catching on itself. You can hear the sound now that there's enough pigment. And I was noticing this when I did the swatches, that the pencils get a heavy feeling. Probably up to 7 layers now. Let's see, so I am just going to say that I'm on the 7th layer. So far, compared to many other pencil brands, these do not feel like they like the light layers. I feel like I need to go heavier to even get the tooth to fill in. It's like it skips the tooth. So, very interesting. I would say now I'm trying to get this finished up, and so I've definitely increased my pressure. That took a lot of layers. That probably was more like 9 or 10. So let's see, what have I got? I've got 8. We'll go ahead and go for 9. And I still see tooth. That's very interesting. That was not what I was expecting. So now I'm going to do, and I haven't really used up any of the tip. It's still pretty pointy. So now let's see how these like heavy pressure. I don't know if you guys can hear that clicking sound. Yeah, I think that these are a heavy pressure pencil. I'd be curious to know what you guys think. If you have Holbeins, what have you found? Do you feel that there's some drag and they're a little bit like clicky sounding? I wouldn't say they're dry. I wouldn't say they're buttery, creamy, or anything like that. And you hear that? That's what happens when you are it's not even like the when you have the pigment. I would say that was about 2.5 layers altogether. I know it looks like it's 11.5, but it's really 2. So that was very interesting, very clicky. Yeah, so when you get all this pigment on here, it's kind of noisy. That is very interesting. Huh. So moving on. I just need to fill in all of these squares down here. I will fill in the erase test with heavy pressure and to get as most tooth gone as possible. The smudge test, I will put a lot down and I will do a red. The water test, I will fill in the tooth and do red. And then the next 5, because there's 3 blending and 2 burnishing, I will put less so that we can actually see the difference of the filling in of the tooth with the different tools that I'm going to use. So starting with the erase test is just going to be a heavy pressure. Let's make sure we can see it. Yep. Heavy pressure. Trying to fill in the tooth as I go, fully and completely. I have 4 erasers today. I know on the part that you can't see there are 3 kinds of erasers to test, but I brought a 4th. And I actually feel like the 4th might have been an oversight, so I might even update this test. For me, any document that I show you guys is always subject to change. I have to check and see if I put this up as a free download, and I will definitely make sure that I put up a PDF. So that's as much tooth. I don't mind there being a little bit of tooth. So what I'm saying that you couldn't see is I've listed these erasers, and I have actually an electric today that I don't have noted. So I am going to not do the erase test yet. I'm going to move over here and I'm going to fill all these in. And I said that the smudge test, I want full pigment, no tooth, because I want to see when you have a bunch of pigment down what kind of movement you get with your finger. Okay, the water test is the same, and both number 4 and number 5, I will, when I'm done, go grab red really quick. So far, aside from the weird, heavy, a little bit of a sticky feeling when you have full pigment down, they're very nice and feel like, look at this, just the very tip is starting to wear, but it is looking really good so far for how much I have been putting down. So these next ones, which are all using various blending tools, I am going to leave tooth so that we can see how well these tools assist in filling in the tooth. I have already made the mistake in the past of accidentally filling in all the tooth so that when I did the tests, I couldn't tell how well they worked. All right, so kind of messy. I don't want it to be perfect. I don't mind if it looks a little streaky because I am curious how well these tools smooth out the pigment. And let's see, where are we at? Can you see over on this side? There we go. And being that this is the only the second time that I have filmed while coloring in the recliner. I want to do a bad streak there. So there's a dark one. Let's see if we can smooth that out with the burnishing. And then this, I want to have it be really inconsistent. Let's see if we can clean that up. And I might do a couple of weird. How well we can clean up all of those flaws. All right. I said I was going to grab red, so let's grab a red. And I'm going to do a smudge test. Did I mention that I really like how the pencils feel in my hand? They have a nice big barrel, they are glossy, they feel very expensive. And that's true because they actually are quite expensive. Not the most expensive. Well, they could be, depending on how you buy them. I bought them on sale. I would not have bought them. But if I needed a replacement pencil and I was in a hurry, I would be paying a lot. I think that they're full price $4.60, $4.65 on like Dick Blick. And I think I got them on sale. I don't remember. A couple of things. I had a discount. So it was like $2.67 a pencil or $2.69, which is just a few cents more than buying the polychromos. All right, so I've got all of my boxes filled. I'm ready to start testing. And the very first test is the erase test. And I said I had 4 different erasers. So the first one, which normally it says a hard eraser. My hard black erasers aren't here right now at my desk, at my recliner. So I'm going to take this click, which I have and I use all the time for erasing. It's not quite as hard as the triangle Prismacolor or the pearl. I have a pink pearl, but it is black. So I'm just going to do a diagonal line. And as you can see, I have gone back and forth. And I think the pigment, this is a pretty heavy load of pigment, but notice how it's starting to smear. I bet this is going to smudge. So right off the bat, I am going to say I would not want to use this eraser. If I was to fix something, I would hope that there is some other eraser that works better than this one. So let's see how much, and then look at all of it that's on the edge. Can I clean this all up or am I going to be in trouble? So the Prismas are kind of like this with their erase behavior. They do stain the paper. Yeah, so it's very hard pressure for me to get this to erase anything. So I'm going to say that is not the biggest success ever. The next one that I have is, I have a Mono Zero, little tiny one. Oh, since I can't find it yet, I do see my F-Mat. So I have this F-Mat electric eraser. I'm still looking around for my Mono Zero. I know it's around here somewhere. Okay, so this little guy, I'm going to pop out and expose more of the eraser. It's a little bit cumbersome using these electric erasers like this because, so you can see there where I just pulled out, let's see, there we go, some of the eraser material. And I'm going to clean it. I tend to always use blue, so I have some blue on here, so I'm going to clean it off. And now that eraser is clean, and let's just see if we can do some little dots for like little accents. That's what I mostly use this for. And it is nice. So let's see if I can clean up some of this. No, that's stained. So definitely with this particular brand, the Holbein, you're going to have to be careful with staining of your paper if you make mistakes. So you don't want to be casual and go over the lines. That would be a mistake. All right, so I still am unable to figure out where I hid my mono eraser, which is a little tiny one that is not electric. It is right with it. So let's do a kneaded eraser. So I use this kneaded eraser for doing my animal portraits. I don't do it so much with coloring pages, but let's just see if I can get just a little bit of the pigment pulled up, because that's what I mainly use this for, is just to pick up little bits. And I see some blue right there, and I see I'm kind of doing a couple of lines where I'm just picking up, and you can see the modeled results, and that is an actual, like, let's say you're doing some either a texture effect that you want. This particular tool works really well for picking up partial, just little segments. So it's picking up some of the pigment, probably the pigment that is on the top that isn't adhered to the paper. So that is a nice effect for different textures. I would not rub this back and forth ever. It's just a tap, tap, tap. And so that is a success. And since I promised that I would do all 4 tests and I'm not able to find my mono zero, I'm going to pause, find it, and I'll be right back. I am back, and I found it. It had rolled off onto the floor. So let's just see. Normally my test for the mono zero is also to do circles right here next to the ones done with the electric eraser. It won't do them as small. And yeah, it's much harder. So see that it's not making a nice little circle like I would expect. But given how the diagonal test went with the click eraser, I'm not surprised. So I'm thinking that this means, for me, electric eraser and kneaded are the 2 that are going to be the most successful, and I will just not want to use the click or the mono because it's just going to smudge. It's not going to take off. And of course, we've already tested these, that they're stains. So I would say that the Holbeins, you need to use erasers carefully, and you want to be sure not to go out of the lines. No casual going out of lines here. So now let's try, number 4 is the smudge test. So I am going to smudge away, and as expected, given on how it did with the erase test, I did expect the blue to smear. And now I'm going to come over here to the red. So that is very interesting. So normally the red smudges quite readily, and I am not able to get, I don't know if you guys can see any, I don't really see anything. And I have no red on my hand. Maybe a little bit, a tiny bit. Very interesting. So I would say that on the smudge test, you need to test individual colors if you are concerned. What this test tells me is that you will want to use glycine. I buy it in a roll off of Amazon, and I bought 1 roll, and I have pretty much a lifetime supply. All right, so now I'm ready to do the water test. And this is just a smaller, normally I use a bigger brush, but I didn't grab it. I just used, this was in the cup. So it says it has a W, which tells me it is water. I find if I go ahead and get some water going here first, then I can take it outside of the square and I should see some tooth. Any part of the pigment that isn't really adhered into the water is going to move, and that is what I'm seeing happen here. It's not too terrible, but the more I play with the water, so I think you have a little bit of leeway. It takes a bit of work to get the pigments to move. So if you wanted to use, like a Posca pen or a jelly roll, you probably are going to be fine and not get staining. Now let's try how the red works. Again, I'm going to take and rub this in in first. And I already see the red moving, but it's still not terrible. Look at that. How unusual. I always do red because red is usually the worst, and this blue is far more likely to move. But you can see the tooth is starting to be exposed as I mix up the red. But it isn't really doing too bad of a job. So far, the erase test has been unexpected. And the reds, both reds, very interesting. All right, so now we're going to do number 6 is 3 different blending tools. I have a stump. And let's see if I can... I don't have a piece of sandpaper with me to sand this down. And it's not going to go through. I've already tried using the electric sharpener. It does not work very well, but I think this last bit I used had blue, but when I rub it, I'm not getting hardly anything. All right, so let's see how this blending stump. I'm just doing circles, or ovals, I guess I should say, staying within the lines. You hear that clicking sound? That is the same sound up above when I started to get a lot of the pigment down. It's got a gloss to it. I can even see it from my angle. Now I have the cross hatches and lines that I'm trying to get rid of. It's smoothing somewhat, but it's not getting rid of all of it. For me, this is the least successful tool on pretty much every pencil. And I'm finding that it's doing a nice job of filling in the tooth at least. It's not necessarily getting rid of the flaws. Maybe if I focus and do a lot of heart circles. So I pretty much don't ever use the blending stump, but it's a good tool to try. Not too bad. It was definitely able to move that pigment. Okay, so my favorite blending pencil is this Fulbright. It is a woodless blender tool. All blender. It is by Caran d'Ache, and it is my favorite blending pencil. I know some people prefer the Derwent blending pencil. That has wood. And I do like it, but this one I like better. So I'm seeing a little bit of crumbs. So far you haven't seen any crumbs. I haven't seen any crumbs. So these crumbs are actually being produced by the pencil. The blending pencil, not the Holbein. I pretty much like how that looks, and it has gotten rid of most of the lines in the middle. Now I do not want to brush with my hand. I am going to whisk these crumbs away safely, and that worked really well. So that worked nicely. The next tool is my handy dandy Stampin' Up! Blender pen. It is acid-free and xylene-free. Not sure. I say water or alcohol. That was done with pink, red. So let's see. This one has blue. And I'm going to get rid of all this blue. I'm still removing the blue. Okay. I think it's clean. So far I've noticed that the blue is getting lighter as you spread out the pigment. This water, I can tell you need to be careful. See how there's these little bits? I can't tell if that's pigment or if it's the paper. So we're gonna just try to leave that alone. I don't dare brush it away knowing it's wet. It's probably gonna, even if I took my pinky to it, it would definitely just smear. But not bad. I definitely think of the three, I would not be using this blender pen. It looks, and I do like though how much blue is on this pen nib. So now we've got a wonderful little flaw here, burnishing with heavy pressure. And that is, of course, my favorite way to burnish. And that is doing one hard top layer. And we need to try to smooth out these dark lines. You can probably hear the clicking sound. And that was lovely. Look at that. Nice and dark. And the lines are gone. I pretty much expected that. Now the next bit is the only white that I got in the Holbein was the soft white, which I am not going to use. I sharpened it with an X-Acto knife, as you can see, and I do not want to use it. It is very soft, and it is going to mix in. Oops, and it just fell on the floor, so I'm just not going to be able to use it, even if I wanted to. But I do have what will probably turn this somewhat light blue, and that is the Prismacolor PC938 white. And I would imagine that it is going to make this a nice light blue. And it hopefully will be able to remove the flaws that I purposefully put here to give these tools a bigger challenge. So there's the lines. I am trying really hard to mix them away. And the crumbs are not the Holbein making the crumbs, that is this pencil. Certain Prismas do this, but it has eliminated that dark X in the middle. So very interesting tests. I like how I can control the ink with these various tools. I'm not too fond of how much it smears. And erasing is going to mean that we need to be careful with these pencils when we are, coloring something and we're not paying attention and we might go over across the line. I would even imagine that the colors are going to commingle. so you need to be careful. So the next test I wanted to do is the sunset test, and I have some extra color choices. As you see with what I bought, I have 2 oranges. So this red is going to be the darkest red. I am not going to use the coral, which is actually called, oh yeah, it's this hard to read. Carnation is the color. I've got, like I said, the extra colors, but I can do 5. I've got 5 boxes. So I could do 2 things. I could take out this middle orange, and I do have a darker red. Just for fun. This is called Crimson. So maybe I'll do this. That will be my set of colors. I am going to color them individually here in the box. The 5 boxes. That is kind of a dark orange. I almost maybe would have used that other orange than this one, but we'll stick with our plan. I am opting for heavy pressure here because based on my different layering techniques, the heavy pressure worked the best. Alright, so this is going to be a very unique sunset. That orange looks, it goes like too dark too soon, and I think that the red is too dark, but we're going to go for it anyways. It'll make it fun. I have these little tick marks. Those tick marks tell me where to color to. I'm supposed to mix past the tick mark with a light layer and then go heavy with the color to the left of it and then lighten it up. We're then going to take this orange and go heavy up the middle and then lighten it across on both sides of its lines. And I'm thinking I'm going to have to go back and forth a couple times. I haven't used these. Like I said, I've been doing the Crayola. So when I did the initial color combos, which I haven't even shown you yet, because I'm going to show you in real life, that was quite a while ago. So I see a couple of crumbs. First crumbs I've seen created by the Holbeins themselves. So I'm going to go up the middle here with heavy pressure, and then I'm going to go across the line with light pressure. And do the same on the other side. So light pressure over here. Now let's see. So the crumbs, I'm just mixing the crumbs in. Heavy down the middle. And light on either side. darker. So this dark red, I said this was called crimson. Kind of is dark though to me. Going light across the line. Okay, now I tend to like to go back from dark to light. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go back. I don't want there to be any transition lines. So I'm going to go ahead and soften up Now the red was not very sharpened when I was doing the two boxes down below. I'm hoping that I can soften this harsh line that I put because I was using too much pressure. So let's take the orange and see if we can do that. Oh yeah, that's doing nice. I can see that I can take this orange and move that red right on around. Starting to make the clicky sound as I get it saturated with the pigment. I am going to finally brush away all of that. So there's quite a few crumbs. Heavy pressure all the way across onto the darker orange side. That did a nice job. And then lighter over onto the yellow, smoothing everything out, and then yellow. Oh yeah, that's lovely. Yep, I like that. These are good pencils. I would expect for the price I paid that they would be. Okay, so I only had a total of 5 blends to do. I thought I'd do at least one more while I have you. We're at the 43-minute mark. And I think I'm going to grab the, what have I got here? We've got a dark blue. Is this dark blue? Indigo. Okay, dark blue, middle blue, this blue. So let's do these 3. I don't have 5 blues, so I'm going to stick with doing a petal darker blue. I wish I would have got the sky blue, but I had exactly the funds to buy 21. So I could not do all the way to the darkest dark and the lightest light. Sorry about you not seeing that. So I'm going to do one petal with these 3 colors. Let's see how nice of a blend we end up with. I could try with either the soft white or I'll just do the Prisma white to get a nice light blue like this way down here. So we will see if I can do that on the end. So starting in the middle of this petal, I will go dark. And as I move along, I will lighten up my pressure to just feathering it on. Middle blue is 365 navy blue. So I just finished with the indigo, which is 460. And then I'm going to soften the edges, come back a little darker, and I'll have to make that indigo stretch out a little further. Years ago, when I first collected Copics, and then after I lost my first full set, I was even more careful, and I came out with blends similar to how I shopped for the Holbeins, where I picked and chose specific colors, specific pencil colors to make the combinations that I wanted to have available to me. And I only had so much money at any given time, so I couldn't just buy the full set like I have been doing with most of my pencil sets. Okay, so this is the lightest I go. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more, almost all the way to the edge. And I'm going to take this Prismacolor. I'm more familiar with the Prisma. If I had spent more time practicing with the Holbein soft white, I would use it, but I don't want to use it wrong. So I'm going to just use a pencil I know. So now I go back to turquoise blue, was the third blue. And if I want to do this blend, I have to be nice and soft. I see some crumbs. I don't want to risk smearing anything, so I will not be tempted to use my hand. I will take my brush and brush them away. Before I go back to the lighter colors, I'm going to get another layer of the navy blue, and then finish off with the indigo. So that was one of the blends that I bought. Let's do one more. How are we doing? 48 minutes. I'm just trying to not go over an hour. All right, so we can do red. I have all the way from coral to burgundy. So the first color, as I said earlier, is carnation. I want you to see carnation, and now this is madder red, number 052. And crimson 062. Oh, and I should have done the white at the top, didn't I? Did it backwards. And here's burgundy. So I will go ahead and do this white, the Prismacolor white, and I am going to rotate a little bit so that I can start the middle of this flower. I might, since it's a nice wider flower, try to follow along the veining a little bit, and then go softer. Moving on to crimson. And again, the crimson is not very sharp. Still trying to kind of follow along like I would really, how I would really be coloring a petal. Okay, and then we've got madder red. I don't know if I'm going to have room for the white. So I think Coral Carnation is the color, and it is 031. Yeah, these feel like nice pencils. Like I said, I suppose they should. Now, as I'm spending more time with them, the way that they kind of intermix, my story back when I was doing the Evazar coloring and did my walkthrough was I talked about it being like mixing colors of taffy together, and that you can kind of pull the color with another color. That's kind of what I feel is happening here. And I did leave a little tiny bit of room, oops, sorry, oh, stay still, for some white on the end, but I want to get some dark veins here. And then I'm going to go in with some crimson. That's like the coral lightened it up too much. You can hear it kind of doing the clicking sound. I can tell that, like the Evazar, you're going to have to really map out your, like if you want veining or textures, you can actually see that I've got some lines instead of a smooth blend, because I am purposefully, unlike the blue side, I am purposefully trying to get some veins to show. And then my red here, yeah, so this is a fun experience. I've got my brush to get rid of some of the crumbs, and then I am going to go in with that white on the very end, see what happens here. The Prismas definitely are a nice pencil to mix with the Holbeins. Because I'm going to have more colors to mix, and this would be good. I guess the Evazar would also be good. I'll have to try the polys just out of curiosity. Here are the two petals that I colored. Let me know what you think. Or do you have any Holbeins, and what is your experience with them? Do you like them? Do you not like them? I can definitely tell they have their own feel, their own behavior, that for using, you definitely need to get to know these pencils, make them work to the best of their capability. The eraser test was an eye-opener, and the smudge test as well. So surprised that the red did not smudge. I really like how the burnishing worked on both colors. I did expect both colors to work, but I'm very surprised. This is now dry. And all three of the blending options took away the tooth evenly, lightening up the blue the same amount. One tool didn't work better than the other. They all worked evenly. Future me popping in to say it's a wrap for episode 47, and be sure to do all the YouTube things, like, share, comment, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.